Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again, and welcome to The Roads with Bo. Today is May 26, 2024, and this is episode 40 of The Roads Not Taken, which is a weekly series where we go through the previous week's events and talk about news that was unreported, underreported, didn't get the coverage I thought it deserved, or I just found it interesting. Starting off today, we are going to just point something out. Later on today over on the other channel, a video will come out because we had a bunch of questions come in about a recent ruling concerning international law. And a lot of messages came in with words like pointless, hopeless, worthless, stuff like that in it. It's intended to be a pep talk. However, if you are not somebody who responds well to tough love, maybe skip that one. Okay, so starting off with foreign policy, there was a coup attempt in Congo. The presence of a handful of Americans led to speculation on social media that it was something from the Central Intelligence Agency. At this point, it looks more like an incredibly bizarre non-CIA thing. Normally, I would mock people for random speculation on something like this, but I mean, saying the CIA is behind a coup in Africa is normally a pretty safe bet. So, I think we can let the speculation slide on this one. Okay, Russia removed buoys marking the border with Estonia. That's probably going to become an issue internationally. McConnell recently admitted on Face the Nation that the Republican Party is largely to blame for Ukraine's recent setbacks on the field. As if that wasn't well known. I guess it is nice to hear it, though. General Brown, chair of the Joint Chiefs, gave some very blunt remarks about Israeli strategy. It could be summed up as you're doing it wrong. I mean, it was pretty direct. The Israeli government seized equipment belonging to Associated Press. There was a bunch of outrage. The equipment, I think it might have actually already been returned by now. Sanders is saying that he is going to boycott Netanyahu's address to Congress. Moving on to U.S. news, Senator Tuberville continued his very unique streak when it comes to foreign policy statements. When he was told that NATO members want to, at some point in the future, add Ukraine to NATO, he asked the defense secretary, "Do you think Russia likes that?" Ukrainian sovereignty is not actually up to the whims of Russia, to be clear. Okay, so Trump whined to his audience that, quote, if Democrats get their way, they will pass a federal law protecting abortion rights. Biden shared the clip on social media, adding the commentary of, yes. Giuliani started to go on kind of a political rant during a court proceeding dealing with the Arizona case. The judge threatened to mute him. There was also another thing that may have occurred while on that call, a leak of sorts, in which maybe Giuliani should have muted himself. Conservative politicians appear to be getting super angry because a, quote, foreign company is attempting to buy an ammo maker in the U.S. They say that they're worried about it falling into the, quote, wrong hands. It's a Czech company, a NATO ally. Just saying. Biden passed a pretty big milestone with 200 judges on the bench. Trump continues to inflate his crowd size. No big surprise there. We saw that one last season. The Supreme Court approved a South Carolina congressional map that was held at one point to have diluted black voting power because, of course, that's what the Supreme Court did. In cultural news, Trump campaign has vowed to sue the filmmakers behind The Apprentice. There are a couple of scenes in it that depict Trump, that character, in a way that Trump certainly did not like. I feel like this might be a mistake on their part because, well, it might just encourage more people to see it. Let's see. Fox ran a headline stating, quote, "Embattled Trump prosecutor fights to keep job as Georgia among 5 states holding elections Tuesday." That's a headline. That sounds like the DA there is really at risk of losing. I wonder what happened. She captured 87%. I'm sure that's just a mishap. There's no way that Fox was trying to sensationalize election coverage to boost views and play its readers for rubes. Okay, in science news, the CDC is prepping for, quote, "increased risk to human health due to bird flu." Senate appropriations were basically told to wait by the head of NASA. The short version there was that Artemis pilots, the safety comes first. Good. Politicians wouldn't be the ones calling the families if something went wrong. I would suggest that maybe politicians should stop arguing with the literal rocket scientists about this. Okay, moving on to oddities. Politicians in the House wanted to create a drone corps inside the Army. The Army said that it would disrupt their plans. It looks like the current plan is to have drones completely integrated across the service. So there's a bizarre look at the future. Okay, moving on to the Q&A. Is the pier working or not? Every outlet I see has a different take. Also, possibly related, WTF is a cram. A C-ram. C-ram. Okay, is the pier working or not? Is it working? Yes. Is it working up to capacity? Not even close. There have been logistical issues. Since we're on this topic, I will go ahead and correct some information that is going out. The pier did not wash away due to high seas. I believe it was 4 boats came unmoored, and they floated away. That led to a bunch of information going out that isn't entirely accurate. Now, as far as the different takes from the different outlets, understand it's in flux. One day it's running, one day there's something wrong. The high seas caused an issue. And then you have to keep in mind that different outlets have a vested interest in it working or not. So it has been getting in food. I want to say they're at like 1 million pounds or something like that of food, and which is, to those people who got it, that's substantial. It's life-saving to them. But that's nowhere near enough, and it is nowhere near capacity. So they still have some stuff to work out. Now, as far as a CRAM, a C-RAM, that is a system that I believe was installed by the pier or on a floating dock near the pier that is an air defense system. Basically, to put this in really simple terms, it is a super machine gun that shoots things out of the sky. It's pretty automated. For all of those people, when the topic of the pier first came up, Everybody said the other side, whoever the other side is, was going to blow it up. That they were going to, send in something to destroy it. That would come in by air. The CRAM would stop that, at least make the attempt. And it is generally pretty effective. So that's why that's there. Okay. My question is, why do so many Americans, but in my experience more often older Americans, have this general attitude of preferring to see everyone lose something, have a disadvantage, or struggle in some way, rather than see a single other person have a perceived handout or get assistance? Something that I have noticed about this is generally it's not people who have struggled. I feel like this is a byproduct of people buying into the identity that, I did all of this by myself and I, bootstrapped and all of that, when maybe they had a little bit more of an advantage than they realize. That's generally where I see this come from. As far as why people hold this idea that, nobody's supposed to help, because there is a lot of media designed to give people that idea, because it keeps those on the bottom from understanding their real power. Why is the USA not giving Ukraine the same weapons we would use if attacked by Russia? Some of it has to do with the technology in it. Some of it has to do with that's our stuff, and, they don't want it to be used somewhere else in case we need it. There's a list of reasons for this. Some are good, some aren't, when you're looking at it objectively, but there's a giant list. Okay. I was going through your preparedness back catalog, which is very helpful, and you made an offhand dismissive comment about what passes for civil defense in this country. I would agree, based on the fact that I, a 40-year-old U.S. citizen, have no idea what is considered civil defense. It seems that community preparedness, if that is part of civil defense, is left entirely to individual citizens, or a patchwork of law enforcement, first responder, state, municipality, nonprofit, and or corporate emergency planners, at least from what I see. However, I would like to ask you, what would constitute good civil defense in your opinion? What would it look like? How would it be implemented and administered? I ask in part because there are groups in my region who are trying to establish better mutual aid and community preparedness for emergency situations. I'm curious to know your opinion and those of your viewers who have expertise in the subject. Okay, so this is a subject that I will do an entire video on this. We'll do an entire video on this particular topic. Okay. It's just one of those things where I have a large interest and a lot of information and practical experience. So that's not something I can boil down into a short answer. I have a question I've been wondering about and that you might be able to answer. How normal is the practice that a state uses non-state actors or state actors, see example below, as a way to influence other nations, and how often is this public knowledge in that state? Let me give you some examples to clarify what I'm asking. We all know about Russia's green little men, and we know that Iran uses military groups around the Middle East. In Russia's case, it is clear these green little men are connected to Russia and led by Russia. Would you call this a non-state actor, or would you call it something else? I'm aware that they are used because of plausible deniability. Do Western states use the same tactic? Am I naive if I believe that this is something that authoritarian states use more than Western liberal democracies? My main question is, how normal is this practice? I'm from Norway, and I would be surprised if I learned that Norway had a small group of green little men somewhere in the world. Likewise, should I learn that Germany or any other country in Europe did? Could you talk a bit about this? Okay, short version here. I don't want to say you're naive, because the whole purpose is that people don't know. But Western liberal democracies, oh, absolutely do it. I don't know if it's more or less, okay? But this is a common practice. Now, as far as the little green men, they were non-state actors, but everybody knew that they really weren't. They were civilianized, but everybody knew where they came from. The plausible deniability was there, but it was also very open. Would I still call them non-state actors? Yes, with the qualification that they're state-directed. Does Norway have something like that? I mean, if not, they have access to another ally's network. This is incredibly common. It is incredibly common. I might just do a video on this too, going through and providing different examples of how they're used, how sometimes they're organic, but then used for, larger countries' purposes, how sometimes they're organic and the interests truly do align, how sometimes they're just straight up co-opted, how sometimes they're not organic at all. There's a lot of different categories here, but the short answer is yes, the West uses them. Which takes longer, finding a specific shirt or finding an old video that you've just referenced to put in the current video's description? I guess it would depend. There's close to 5,000 videos over on the other channel. And it can get confusing. There's something I don't want to put. There is a way that I have been finding them lately, relatively easy, but I'm not sure that I'm supposed to tell people about it yet. So the shirts are normally pretty easy to find. The real issue comes when I have one on and I leave with it, and it hasn't made it back yet, but I'm still looking for it. I noticed there are few, if any, cuts in your videos. On average, how many takes does it take for you to create one of your videos? Has there ever been a video that took way too many takes? Sometimes, most times, one. This is the first take of this, and this appears to be the last question. So as long as I don't mess up here in the next few seconds, it'll be okay. Sometimes it takes more, particularly if it's one where I'm a little heated, because sometimes my language is not always as clean as it is on this channel, and sometimes it slips out. And those, I reshoot those. Has there ever been a video that took way too many takes? The one where I was talking about politicians basically using the deaths of service members for political points, I had to record that like 20 times because I kept slipping up and saying things that were not fit for public consumption. So I guess if I had to like average it, maybe 2, I would think, but a lot of times it's just 1. And sometimes when I'm recording a bunch at one time, I get tongue-tied somewhere in it and have to take a break. But, okay, well, that looks like it. So a little more information, a little more context, and having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good day.